know the way as I've often travelled it, but I've never seen it like this before. I hardly recognise it anymore. I can only use my sense of direction to tell Manuel where he must drive. On the street, there are cars driving in the other direction, and Manuel greets every driver with a friendly wave, and they greet back as if they all know each other. It doesn't take long for me to start greeting too, and I notice how it feels. For a while we sit quietly in the car, which to my amazement doesn't have a steering wheel. Instead, Manuel is controlling it with what looks like an Xbox controller. Lost in thought, I look out the window and am amazed by the scenery. I remember sparse, dry, unused cultivated lands, but now there are fields and meadows where everything seems to be growing. Forests too, real forests. Before my time travel, I was getting used to the idea. I had a great interest in permaculture and tried it myself, but I never thought you could cover a whole island with forests in 5 years. As if he was reading my mind, Manuel explains that we have a man named Jeff Lawton to thank. He worked tirelessly the last few decades to research how nature builds its flora, copied it and integrated it into his own design. I know him, or rather his videos, I say. Sepp Holzer, Victor Schauberger, Robert Brichle, Anastasia. I've read quite a bit. He looks at me approvingly. Yes, exactly. In 2016, when nothing stood in Jeff Lawton's way, his project, Greening the Desert, drew thousands of people to help, and he turned almost a quarter of the Sahara green. The whole thing was shown on a weekly TV show, and the people could see that changes were possible, if only on a small scale around them, and permaculture relived a renaissance. The second season in 2017 became a blockbuster, and the forests you see here are just 3 years old. 3 years? I gasp. How is that possible? Back in the 80s, a researcher for a Swiss agricultural company found out that when seeds were irradiated in a certain way, they would grow much quicker and bigger with a much higher yield. However, since the company was interested in selling seeds and the invention didn't help their profits, it disappeared into the drawer that no one was allowed to open. You know how it is. Back then, after the mainstream media reported on the findings, and in the first decade of the new century, you could easily find information in the internet about the primeval code, Lawton brought it back into the spotlight. Everything he planted was irradiated, and the results you see in front of you. What about Monsanto? The last I heard was a report by maize farmers in Mexico who claimed their Monsanto-free crops were being contaminated via wind with Monsanto crops, the result being that even in the maize's country of origin, there was hardly any seed left. Did the primeval code save them? Yes, as the radiation reset the genetic code of the plant. Thus the name. They discovered that the irradiated seeds grew versions of the plants that were found in fossils. It also didn't seem to matter if the mutations were natural or made in a laboratory. The radiation put the seed back to the gene code that was active millions of years ago. Here, let me show you something. Manuel slows down and stops on the right and waves for me to get out and follow him. A few meters further, we were standing in a field. Only after looking closer could I see which plants were standing there. And as if to prove a point, he pointed to a maize plant. "What do you see here?" he asks. "Well, that's easy. It's maize. Not one stem with 5 cobs, but 2, 3, 4, 5 stems with 10 cobs each. How's that possible?" He didn't answer, but breaks off a cob and gives it to me. "Try it. 2, 3, 4, he jokes, imitating Baloo from the Jungle Book, smiling ear to ear. I peel the cob and take a bite. "Damn!" escapes from my full mouth, followed by a sheepish, Sorry. Curling with laughter, he says, "Don't worry. Enthusiasm sometimes lets us forget conventions and manners. Tastes good?" "Yes, not like I know it, watered down with a faint maize taste, but really, really like maize. I can't help but to take another bite. Really, I bit into it like an apple, the monster cob. Chew and take another mouthful. I stand there like I did earlier with my grandfather under an apple tree that he just had to show me because I had such great apples. This must stay our secret, otherwise we won't have much," were his words. Here there was no shortage, and Manuel, inspired by my pleasure, also breaks off a cob and takes a big bite. "All this belongs to everyone?" I ask while chewing. "Everything as far as the eye can see, beyond the horizon, right around the planet to there," he replies, pointing to the field on the other side of the street. "Does that explain why there is no more hunger on Earth?" he asks with a smile. I answer with a nod. It seems unbelievable. "Welcome to the Garden of Eden," says my new friend, throwing the half-eaten cob back into the field. I really feel as if he's my childhood friend. He's so familiar to me. Again, as if reading my thoughts, he says, "Okay, amigo, the day is still young. Let's drive further. You were asking about God." I follow him back into the car. The topic interests me. "Thank the field for your food," he calls to me. I only realize now how devotionally he returned the leftovers. I quickly turn around and bow to the field thankfully. I have to smile. I like this attitude towards food. Back in the car, we sit quietly for a few minutes beside each other. "So, what would you like to know?" he asks. "Well, what do you think about God? Which religions are still there, if there are any? Has the existence of God been proven yet?" He laughs. "That's quite a lot at once. I'll tell you something, but I can't prove it. These things can't be explained that easily. I can try, but as long as your faith is tinged by doubt, you won't be able to understand, as you are missing some practical experiences. Luckily, these can be gained, and that's why I'll start with your questions about religion. I would say that everyone has their own religion, and we've stopped warring and killing each other over them. It doesn't seem to interest anybody anymore, as we realized that we are all lied to, and through their dogmas, we could neither find God nor ourselves. The search for God was as old as the search for ourselves, and when we started looking inside ourselves, that, amigo, has completely different results, which we will discuss later. We quickly found out that we were reliant on each other and are connected to each other. We came to see the whole picture and found that which we were searching for, that which we had given all sorts of names, and we were humbled, a pleasant humility that comes from the inside, not the humiliation as we knew it from religions. On the inside, we recognized not only God, but ourselves again, and that we were all God. Can you follow? I think a while about what he said. The way he explained it isn't hard to follow, especially as he obviously didn't have any interest in trying to convince me of anything, something that was refreshingly new to me concerning this topic. As if reading my thoughts, he continues, "What you choose to believe, you must decide for yourself. Whatever you choose is right, as everything is a reflection of your perspective," he smiles, "and each one is completely real. What you believe to be real can and will reveal itself to you as knowledge. Even the biggest load of rubbish has, in the past, been used as a plausible reason for wars of all kinds. When you do choose something, be sure that's what you feel comfortable with, and give others this right too. Then the question about God won't really matter much anymore. My personal suggestion, and it's only my one, is to see yourself as a divine being, as you are one without a doubt. The religious dogmas tell us we should think the opposite. God and human must be separated so that the people won't be able to feel the perfection that the Creator is, along with all the creations that can be perceived. If you find your belief doesn't help any, you can change it any time you want. Back then, we had the freedom to choose a religion. Now we can practice it, he adds, laughing. I can't help it, but in this moment I'm full of love for Manuel, Samira, the maize, the silent car, the people we see, and the seagull who showed me the way. Suddenly, I feel connected to it all, as one. His words move something in me, something that's been stuck for too long. Life forms, he says. What? I answer, dazed. Life forms. Don't categorize so much. The people, you, me, Samira, the seagull, animals, and plants. We've been standing in our own way for far too long by discriminating like that. What I mean is see everything as you like, but try and see everything around you as a life form without sticking it in a hierarchy. And then you will see everything as an equal. It hits like a drug trip, just without the drugs, he says with a smile. I don't feel reprimanded in any way and decide to listen to his advice. So, God learns about himself through us, as we are all God? Well, well, look how quickly you can see something new if you just change your perspective. Not bad, amigo. You're a quick learner. The compliment is good and I'm feeling great. I forget the weird situation that I find myself in. All of a sudden, everything is very interesting and I'm thankful to be here. I'm enthusiastic. Hard to believe how quickly it happens, especially when you think how long we took to get to the point where we changed our perspectives, he says, looking at me from the corner of his eye. Can you now believe how the world can change so much in just 5 years? Damn, I think to myself, and he just laughs. We drive the rest of the way in silence, interrupted only by my directions. I wonder if my friends still live there, I say as we stop at the door of the finca. I could tell you, but that will spoil your fun finding it out for yourself, he answers in a secretive tone like Samira's earlier. I feel like I'm in the Truman Show. They all seem to know something about me, but don't want to say anything. I don't at the moment either, but lean over and give my driver a heartfelt hug and thank him for the drive. I must say, thank you, amigo. I am really unbelievably glad to have met you. We'll meet each other again soon. See you around. With these words, I open the door, get out, and am standing in front of my home. I get a shock. Almost nothing as I had left it. I hardly recognize the house anymore. It's been lovingly fixed up, and all around there are flowering and fruiting plants. The sparse, dry field that I remember being like the rest of the island in summer is now a forest. I can hear water running, louder than the pool would cause. Insects buzz through the air. Birds fly around singing loudly, and my dog comes running towards me, wagging his tail with joy. Fuzzy, I call to him and forget everything else. I don't have a key, but know where to climb over the fence. I only now notice that the gate is still there, but the fence is gone. What's the use of the gate then? I push the handle and it opens. Cool. A world without keys. I like that. One worry less. Forgetting my keys is a thing of the past. I enter the finca and greet my four-legged friend happily. Strange. It feels like I saw him only a few hours ago. He looks a bit older, and acts like he hasn't seen me for a long time. I don't often get a greeting like this. He's completely excited, running in circles and bouncing around like only a dog can. "Nathan, what are you doing here?" asks a woman's voice behind me. "You were only just—" As I turn around, she grows quiet and her eyes grow bigger. Oh my God, I didn't think of that. I completely forgot the time. I look at her, but don't have a clue who it is. Why does everyone know me around here, but I know no one? "Let me guess," I say. "You also don't want to spoil my fun finding something out myself." She looks at me and starts laughing. She can hardly contain herself and comes over with open arms. When she's in front of me, she lays her hands on my face, strokes it, and gives me a kiss on the lips, and still laughing says, "We couldn't say exactly what day it was where you were at the beach. We've been expecting you, but just didn't know when. This is so cool. Now we have 2 of you. Only you look 5 years younger." "2? 2 of what?" Slowly it dawns on me. Memories of Back to the Future shoot into my mind. The glitches in the space-time continuum. I think of Spock and the film Looper, and realize that my 5-year older self is here too. The only calming thing at the moment is that it's still my home, and I'm allowed to be here, and am apparently still living here. Again, I am quite confused. "Who are you?" I ask. "I'm Christina. I'm Bauchi's wife," she answers. "You can't know me yet. Come, the others will be glad to see you. Especially Nathan. I mean, you. Oh God, I can't believe it. You won't believe how glad you'll be to meet yourself. The other way round," she laughs. "Are they all crazy here, or am I?" She's so loving and her joy is so contagious as she leads me on, holding my hand. We walk onto the terrace that's been comfortably redone. There's a big bowl of fruit on the table, and colourful flowers are all round, and it's much tidier than I remember. What a beautiful place. "Have a seat," she invites me. "I'll quickly fetch the others." She disappears, and I close my eyes, and I wish that I would wake up. I hear footsteps, open my eyes, and realize there is no waking up at the moment. I see Christina climbing the stairs, followed by Mark, Bauchi, and me. I can't breathe. I don't look that much older. I've kept well, I think to myself. My other self sees me. "Ha! There you go, at last! I told you all I wasn't dreaming." I must have been looking at myself with such amazement. He comes over and kneels in front of me. "Please excuse me. This must be very confusing for you. I know, as I have experienced it already. How are you?" "Not well, I can remember." "Okay. How to handle this situation. I was prepared for anything, but now it's different. Can I do anything for you so that you'll feel better?" I ask myself. I notice his healthy white teeth, completely different to my battered mouth I have now. "How about some explanations?" I ask dryly. "I can assure you that it's no dream, but only really from this moment on. Except for if I'm still dreaming, but that's unrealistic. Considering all that I now know, you will return at the right time. For a start, I can assure you that you are in safety and you can relax. I know these words helped me 5 years ago. They do, and I relax a bit. Christina returns from the kitchen with a jug of juice and some glasses. Freshly pressed, she announces, and starts filling them. She is beautiful and shining like a sun. She seems to be really happy. I like her. Only now do Mark and Bauchi awaken from their rigor. "Damn," says Bauchi, smiling at me. I didn't believe it. Until now, I didn't believe anything. But anything. He stops talking and gives me a tight hug. His eyes gleam more than before, and he is quite a bit thinner too. "What's wrong, buddy?" I ask. "Being speechless is something new." We smile at each other. Then Mark also greets me heartily. "Wow, this is incredible," I say when we're all seated. "I really didn't know if this is all real or not. 5 years of waiting, and now you're here, in spite of all the doubt." Suddenly, 2 children come onto the terrace, drawn to the spectacle. "This is William and Stephan," I say. "William is Christina and Bauchi's son, and Stephan is Mark and Natalie's son. You'll meet her soon." I look at them with interest. "So you can have children?" I asked Bauchi, who was still childless in 2015 and assumed he couldn't have any. "Yup," he answers with a smile and puts his son on his lap. "Isn't he perfect?" William leans his head on his father's chest, half closes his eyes, and rests his interested gaze on me. It's also nice that I forget my confusion. To my surprise, Stephan comes over to me and lifts his arms. Instinctively, I lift him onto my lap. He looks at me with eyes as big as saucers, and again I feel something that I don't recognize. I'm overwhelmed with joy and love around me, and that everyone except me knows what's going on. Tears stream from my eyes, and I can't hold them back, so I let them run. The little guy puts his finger on the tip of my nose and makes a farting sound with his lips. "Life is good," he says. "Have you forgotten?" This breaks me open on the inside. What's happening here? "Let go," I say. It helps. Then Stephan does something that I never expected. He hugs me with a devotion that I don't know, like a father would hug his son. "Everything is fine," he says. He holds me, and I sob like a child while the others look on with respect, like they know this already. The little guy really holds me. I feel strength in him that I don't expect from a child. "Everything is fine," says his little voice again, and I can feel something reacting in me. Something is changing in me. Out of my deepest self arises a peace, and as if set free, it follows the call of freedom and expansion. At last, it can be seen and wants to help. All of the desires, my fears, and silly thoughts I've ever had come rushing up, as if fleeing from it. Endless peace, unison, and harmony. Peace. I can feel peace in me. Peace in me, at peace with the world. I'm at peace with everything. I am one with everything. I am everything. I am the universe, the Alpha and Omega, up and down, light and darkness. I am full of love. As if I was to memorize them, Manuel's words ring in my head. Perceive yourself as a divine being, as without a doubt you are one. I feel a soft touch on my nose and hear a farting sound. I open my eyes and tearily look into the clearest eyes I've ever seen. "Life is good, you must never forget," says Stephan. Who are you? I ask him this time, and for the first time in my life, I don't see a child in front of me, but a being in the body of a child. I perceive him as an equal, still sitting there on my lap, as an equal and complete person. Who are you? He returns the question. I don't know. That's good. Why is that good? Because you are nothing and everything. Do you remember? This question, coming from a 4-year-old child, stumps my understanding again, and I just nod. Yes, I remember, I say. Only now do I remember the others who are still just sitting there watching. Now you are ready for these times, I explain to myself. You should now be able to hold the frequency of the earth, and through you, so will many, many other people, even if they don't know it yet. I know this, as it's already happened. Juice?